Ryan. Thanks for joining us. This is the end of January. Is the recap show of the Kentucky Derby prep season. Thanks for joining us. You can follow us on Twitter at the Sports Tri. That's TRI with an I. Or you can also email us over at thesportstrifecta@gmail.com. I'll be glad to hear from you. And here we go. Let's get this thing going. They're off. All right. So this section is going to be called And They're Off. This is going to be on every one of the podcasts going forward. It's going to be our takes on the horse racing world. Most of them fun. That's what we want to keep everything here. This first one is going to be a little bit more opinion-based. What my take is on why the Kentucky Derby is still the most prestigious race to run. Now, this is being recorded right after the Pegasus had just finished up on Saturday, in which Gunrunner closed out his career, almost a $16 million winning horse. It's incredible. And that was a fantastic race, and it made me start thinking, like, why do we care so much about the Kentucky Derby? Because there's obviously races out there that have higher purses. I mean, the Breeders' Cup Classic, the Dubai World Cup, Pegasus, as I mentioned. You know, and there's arguably better horses in those races, too. I mean, no 3-year-old could beat Gunrunner. Always Dreaming wasn't even in it. So why is the Kentucky Derby the one that we're doing this podcast on and everybody focuses in and everybody tunes in? I like to tackle that. I think I've come up with 3 pretty strong reasons why I personally believe that the Kentucky Derby is the cream of the crop. The first thing is, you may have higher purses in those 3 other races. However, you've got multiple chances to win them. West Coast finished second in the Pegasus this year. He's going to be 4 years old next year. Come back and possibly going to win. I can't say probably. I have no idea how the season's going to go. But in those races there, you get a mulligan. The Kentucky Derby, there is no mulligan. I think that is the most important reason why the Kentucky Derby is so prestigious in my mind is you get one shot. Don't mess up. Don't be Thunder Snow and wonder, what would it be like if he actually ran the race? Don't be a horse that's, I don't know. Just you get one shot. All the pressure is there. You can't mess up. There is no next time. There is no another train coming. This is it. That gives it huge weight, in my opinion. The second is, I think it's the hardest to win. Like, you may have better horses in other races out there, but the Kentucky Derby is a 20-horse field. Okay? The best crop of 3-year-olds, they have to qualify to make it in. The Pegasus, you just buy a spot and then you put a horse in. You don't have to qualify. Doesn't have to have any earnings as far as I'm aware of. You can technically buy that spot and say, my horse has a shot at winning some money here. I mean, obviously you want to put a horse in that has a theoretical shot at winning because it's $1 million a slot. However, you may not have the top field there. I mean, there are some horses in this Pegasus thing. Yeah, they weren't that great. There are also leasing spots out there, which is kind of weird. I still don't know how the economics work behind that. Now, the Breeders' Cup, you do have to qualify for. I give the Breeders' Cup a lot of credit there. However, the Breeders' Cup, that as well, is something where you may not have, you're going to have probably the best horses in the Breeders' Cup. That may be very akin there, but again, you can win it multiple times. You have multiple chances. So the Dubai World Cup, it's a very, the purse is super in that race. However, you got to ship across the world to get there. Dubai is on the complete other side of the world. I'm in New York myself, and from North American horses going all the way over the world, A, not a lot of people want to ship over there. Then B, the ones that do, you have no idea how that affects a horse. That's a lot of miles that you got to travel. It can take a lot out of a horse. You may not get the best efforts out of them. But the Kentucky Derby, I think everybody is tuned up, sharp. That's the race that they've been pointing to for the last 6 months, 8 months before. Everybody's prime. Technically, since the horses first bought at an auction, is probably, hey, this horse, we spent $800,000 on it, we're going to put it in the Derby. You're going to get that. And then the last but not least, the Breeders' Cup is great. It is. However, that's been only run since the 80s. The Pegasus has only been in year 2. And they gave away this ring like it's the Super Bowl or something like every other sport. I mean, 2 years, that's not a lot of tradition. The Dubai World Cup isn't as old either as 144 years. That's what the Kentucky Derby is. It's coming up on its 144th running. To me, anything that's run that long. I mean, the Stanley Cup is a fantastic trophy because it's been around for ages. It's not this made up thing. You know, people look at the Stanley Cup and then they look at the Larry O'Brien trophy. Now, I love the Larry O'Brien trophy because it's got my last name on it. However, nobody knows that it's the Larry O'Brien trophy, you know, unless you're a really hardcore basketball fan. But people know what the Stanley Cup is. People know what the Kentucky Derby is. When you hold that trophy, when you see that garland of roses go over that horse, when they play My Old Kentucky Home, everything like that, the tradition that surrounds the horses, that horse race is second to none. And that's why we spend all of our time here. All right. So here we go. We're going to go over the Derby preps that happened in January 2018 and kind of see if we learned anything from these preps. I'm going to start with the boys for the Derby, and then we're going to go over the girls for the Oaks. Let's start off with the first race of the year here is the Sham Stakes. This was run over a mile. McKenzie, this was a pretty big race for McKenzie. It was a small field, so there's no worries about traffic. So he sat off the pace just a bit. He made his moves at the beginning of the final turn, and man, this horse just cruised on his way home from there. It was a pretty good time, and you know what? It could have been even greater time if the horse wasn't, busting the last 16th of a mile. He was well ahead. Didn't have to bust it. Still put up a 136 over 1 mile. This is 104 on the Brisnet speed rating for this race. The Sham was pretty good barometer here for what we can expect out of McKenzie. I'm starting to really favor this horse here. McKenzie's jumping up my board. I actually raised the ranking on McKenzie after this race. Another horse and note for this was All Out Blitz. All Out Blitz caught my eye. I posted on the Twitter if you guys saw that there. You know what? It was a little higher odds, but finished in second place. This horse had a good start. You know, was a little tired by the time the stretch came. There's definitely potential for All Out Blitz. I'm not, tossing this one out in the gutter yet because still got some room to grow. Maybe not a Kentucky Derby type yet, but yeah, there's still time for All Out Blitz. Watch out on that. Race after that was the Jerome Stakes. This was at Aqueduct, and there was some bad weather up here in New York, so this race got pushed back. And then when they finally did race the race, it was not that great. The weather was still pretty bad. The track was in pretty bad condition. They ran pretty slow. I don't think the field was that great in this race either. Firenze Fire was part of this. Now, if you listen to the first episode, you know my opinions on Firenze Fire. It's a back running horse. This is a closer, dead closer in a 20 horse field. I'm not gonna, go at Firenze Fire in smaller fields. I think it's a fantastic horse. I mean, Firenze Fire beat Good Magic back in the Champagne. So Firenze Fire, the track was muddy. It was a small field, and it was a really, really slow pace. I thought this pace would hurt him, and it did a little bit because, as a closer, you kind of want a stretched out field. He barely won this race. On a nicer day, I think he probably scrapes a few seconds off the time and maybe stretches out a little bit more. But in the end, he ran the race I thought he would. And, even with the slow pace, he still got it from the back. I'm not 100% sold on this horse. He'll probably end up running in the Kentucky Derby, and he'll probably take a decent amount of money because people will see some of these fast fractions in smaller fields. But I'm going to have to pass on Firenze Fire. Another horse to note that was in this was Seven Trumpets. This horse, he led the race the entire way before being caught. He barely lost. He was on a lead in a slow-paced race. Usually that equals a win. I'm not sold on this horse. Maybe he gets close to some summer races like the West Virginia Derby, Ohio Derby kind of deal. But, couldn't, he had a pretty optimal trip and he messed up. Unless he hated being up front and nobody wanted to take the lead on this, I don't know. Seven Trumpets, you're not on that. And then I also look at if you look at the race card for this day at Aqueduct, there was other mile races that were run on this day, and they were in the 140s and 23-24 splits going on in the beginning. So this was just really a slow race, I think. They ran a mile in 142. That's not a Derby style win right there. So got a 94 Brisnet rating for the race. I'm not big on this one. I'm going to toss this one out. LeCompte was run down in the south there. Instilled Regard, which is another one of the top horses right now. Instilled Regard lost to McKinsey on a DQ with Solimini back in December. This horse, though, this is one of the longer races. It was a mile and 70 yards. Instilled Regard, he ran from the middle with a nice move on the turn. Won easily after that. He played the track perfectly. Didn't need a top effort to win. Principe Guilherme was in this, which was getting a lot of hype. This horse was in good position. Didn't have the lead like in his wins, though. So he got a little swing out wide, and at the fairgrounds, those are tight turns. You can blow a turn pretty big and lose a lot of ground. I think that kind of cost him. There's a slight excuse here, but I'm not sold on this horse being anything close to eye-popping. I'm going to pass on Principe Guilherme. I can't even pronounce his name. I don't want to mention him. He's out of here. He's off my list right now. He may run in the Derby, but he's not going to be any factor as far as I can see at the moment here in January, but you never know. No, I do know this horse is not going to win. Instilled Regard, there is a good chance. I like his style. And then the Cowboy Karma, this is maybe not Derby related, but if you want to play some sprint races in the summer, watch out for Cowboy Karma. This horse made an incredibly explosive move, bolting to the inside around the final turn. Really caught my eye. I'm interested in seeing maybe if this horse is a sprinter or possibly turf better. I don't know. But there's some really good sprinters that have run in the Derby before, and they don't stand a chance because it's too long. But like Whitmore comes to mind. Like Whitmore, I knew that horse was fast, but I knew he didn't stand a chance in the Derby. Then he's running sprints, and he back in Pimlico in the spring. It was a fantastic race. So, that was LeCompte. Decent for Instilled Regard. Everybody else I'm going to toss out, though. But very, very good race for Instilled Regard. The last one of the males was the Smarty Jones. This one was a mile and 70 yards. Marino was in it. It was a slightly sloppy track, but he won pretty easily. He didn't have to push as he could this thing basically run. If you watch the rebroadcast of this, the track announcer is like, someone's got to catch up to him, and this is on the back stretch. This wasn't even coming down the final stretch. This is on the other side of the racetrack. This horse had the race won by the time the second turn was over. So he put up an okay time, 142 for a mile and 70 yards. Everybody else, Combatant, I think, was in this race. I don't think he did that great. Marino, decent horse. I want to see him get pressed before I'm bumping him up in the ratings here. But, almost got a triple-digit number from Brisnet on this. So great job there for Marino. And on the ladies we go here. So in January, there was 3 prep races on the Oaks Trail. We're going to start off over at the Santa Ynez. This was a 7-furlong race that was won by Midnight Bisou. This was running 123.40. Midnight Bisou, I don't know. Yeah, I believe it's Bisou. She didn't have to stay up with a hot pace. She went 4 wide and then cleared down the stretch. It looks like she has the stamina to go farther. I'm putting this on the watch list, this horse here. Nothing. It was 7 furlongs, so I don't know if she can go the distance. But it looks like she can. And you can go 4 wide and then clear the field. That's pretty impressive. So Midnight Bisou, she gets a couple thumbs up. If it's a Reddit column there, she gets upvoted on a Reddit post there. Oh, all right, that's weird. All right, any case, other horses around here would definitely be Steph Being Steph. She hung it for second place while dueling down the stretch for it. Win the War was with her. This wasn't dueling down the stretch for first place. It was dueling for second place. Win the War was there. Should have had second, but got outdone by Steph Being Steph. So that's thumbs down to Win the War, but Steph Being Steph, interesting. Again, I'd like to see more distance. Santa Ynez got a 93 in the Brisnet speed rating. Next up was the Silver Bullet Day Stakes. That went in time of 144. That was a mile and 70. Stronger Than Ever was the winner. She came back from the back of the pack at Fairgrounds, which is kind of what you want to do there. It's tight turns. You don't want to blow the turn. She had a nice duel down the stretch, and you can pass Wonder Godot, which brings me to the second place winner, Wonder Godot. I'm not a fan of this horse at all. I think she is like Moppetism from last year, we may see her in a ton of races. There was even talk about Wonder Godot being in the Derby field. I don't think she's a contender for the Oaks. She'll run in it. She'll probably run in 20,000 other races this year like Mappadism did and then not win until she drops down in class into an allowance race or something. Not a huge fan. Wonder Godot, she stalked, got caught around the turn, and she got bested in a duel. There's no excuse for this horse. This horse isn't great. That was a Silver Bullet day. Got an 87 on the Brisnet speed rating, which it's one of the lowest ratings we had here. So stronger than ever. We'll see what happens. But won the race, so I can't really ever argue with a winner unless their style is like Frenzy Fire. But yeah. Then last up is the Busanda Stakes. This was a race that nobody wanted to be in. It actually was scheduled for a Saturday and didn't get run to the following week because they only had 4 entrants on the Saturday it was supposed to be run. I know Aqueduct's been kind of in some bad weather lately and the track maybe not in the greatest of shape. I mean, there was Oaks points here, though. I mean, clear for the taking, which Midnight Disguise ended up taking. It was a mile and an eighth race, which is a little long for this time of the year, but it's a good test. It was running 155, which is not a good time at all. Midnight Disguise, if you watch the replay of this race, not a very impressive look. I mean, she had a good close, I guess, but I don't know. From you talk about NCAA tournament teams and you do the eyeball test. With this horse, the eyeball test didn't look that great. It was no. It didn't look like the most gallant gallops down the stretch for a beautiful win. It was kind of like, whoa, is this horse gonna make it to the end? And she did, and she won the race. Being such a slow race, I don't know. These Aqueduct preps so far, I wish they'd be better. I mean, that's the track that's closest to me in New York here. I'd love to go out there and see the best of the best, but right now I'm just waiting for the big ones to come. So that was the wrap on the females there. All right, it's time for the top 5s. If you follow the Twitter, you probably know what these are already. With the month of January, just to let those out there that don't really know how these stakes races go for the prep season, usually a lot of the ones that already have points that accumulated at the end of last year, they don't start racing until February or March. March and April have the big point races. These January ones are good to keep an eye out for, up and comers. But my top 5 so far hasn't really changed. Good Magic. This is for the male horses. Good Magic still in first for me. I give it an 86. Again, this is a scale 0 to 100. 100 being a sure bet. Secretariat, I would still only give a 99. So Good Magic, give an 86. Really good horse. Hasn't raced yet again in 2018. Looking forward to what's on the docket for Good Magic, though. I got both Doro and Solimini tied at number 2. Both of them, I got them at a rating 84 still. McKinsey, I bumped up to an 83, so McKinsey takes over the number 4 spot. I went over McKinsey's run earlier in the podcast here. And then there's a horse that hasn't even run in a points race yet, but has caught my attention. This is my number 5. I'm giving it the World of Trouble. This horse, I'm giving a rating of 82 right now, mainly because this horse is blowing away some competition. Now, there is a loss. If you look at the past performance on here, it was to a horse named Sutash down in Florida. Interesting story about this one. Go ahead and watch the replay if you can get access to it there. World of Trouble is coming down the final stretch, and then just inexplicably, boom, hit the rail. Bounced off. Looked like it was like that slowed the horse down from the side angle, but if you watch the head-on replay, I don't know if it really affected the speed. It looked like it from the side, though. So I'm going to say World of Trouble, the only loss is, and it's that. Sutash, though, too, is a really good-looking horse there as well. However, World of Trouble is a front runner. This horse, he runs his own race and has put up some mean fractions. I mean, splits that are just burning around the track and killing it down the stretch, and hasn't raced over a mile. I believe his last race was 7 furlongs. I want to see what this horse can do. This is taking over for Grey Vitos, who was a front runner that I was really into. Grey Vitos unfortunately got hurt. So World of Trouble's in here, and I think World of Trouble could be a World of Trouble for the horses above it. I just need to see a little bit more. Sutosh, just don't like the running style. Kind of a mid-packer. Very talented horse. Is probably going to do some damage in some races over the year if he continues down this road. But I don't like the fact that he comes from the middle of the pack, middle of the back of the pack. I think smaller fields he'll be great. I mean, he's got a lot of talent going on. I give Sutosh like a 70. He's off my board. Marino, I got a 72. Sporting Chance, Catholic Board, and there's a couple of horses, but those are my top 5. World Trouble's number 5. Let's go over to the females for the Oaks. This really hasn't changed much at all. I mean, I still got Road to Victory and Monomoy Girl. After their crazy duel, they're still number 1 and number 2 in my book. Road to Victory, I got a 90. Monomoy Girl, I got an 89. Caledonia Road, who was the juvenile filly winner, I still got her at an 88. You can listen to my reasons for that. And then I got Dream Tree closing it up at an 86. Those are my top 5 for the females. A couple ones to watch out for. I got Amy's Challenge up there, not too far off. I got her at an 82. Keep an eye on Amy's Challenge. I mentioned the name earlier, and she keeps showing that she's doing a hell of a job. So I'm just a little bit afraid of that horse possibly burning out if she gets too much of a hot pace. But I think she's definitely something to keep an eye on. And then also testing 1-2. This horse, she's a mid packer. Gets a lot of speed coming around the end. She destroyed some competition at Delta Downs, and she's continues to dismantle weak fields. I want to see her step up in competition and what she's got. Until that, I can't put her on the top 5 for now. But that is the top 5. Thanks for joining us. Lovely to have you listen to the podcast. We're going to keep doing this every month. We're going to have some fun topics. If you got anything you want us to talk about or any questions, submit it to us on the Twitter. Again, at the Sports Try with an I, or send an email to thesportstry@gmail.com. Thanks. Have a great day.